It's your early breakfast
with Africa Melane.
Spaza Shops are an important, avenue for people to gain product and service in townships across the country, an important contributor to the economy without a doubt. And in a world where it is unsafe to have cash on you, many would go to these Spaza Shops with a card in order to pay for transactions using not a teller machine, but what do you call it? A point of sale machine. Now, for many Spaza Shops, they will levy a fee in addition to whatever your bank is going to be charging you, and this could range from anything as low as R2 all the way to R10, depending on the total that you are paying for. Is this legal? Peto Ndaba is a spokesperson for the National Consumer Commission, joins me on the line now. Peto, very good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Africa. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
What does the law say on this?
The CPA is very clear, Africa, that a supplier cannot charge a consumer a price that is outside what they have displayed. So we see this, we have noticed queries or complaints from consumers, and it's for that reason that we have actually, issued that educational, advisory that do not do that as Spaza Shops, because I think they are really taking advantage of consumers, and it is clearly not allowed in as far as the CPA is concerned.
So what can people do if they visit the Spaza Shop this morning before going to work because they need a loaf of bread or a pint of milk and they don't have any cash on them and they are levied an additional fee of R2, R5, R10?
Look, there's a section in as far as the CPA is concerned, again, Africa, that you have a right to choose a supplier. But I say that, and I'm mindful of the fact that in some areas you only have one Spaza Shop. We really want to know of that conduct. We say to those consumers, do inform us so that we can reach out to those Spaza Shops. We've also noticed that some shops, one, is either they take advantage, but others really not aware of how to do certain things. They brought a speed point to make it easier for consumers to transact. As you correctly said, that it's safer to transact using a card instead of cash. But they now burden consumers with this extra R2 or R5, not knowing that they cannot charge that amount. So we have taken upon ourselves that now we need to go down to the grounds. Why do we educate consumers, but we also nudge suppliers to say it cannot be the consumer's responsibility to pay for that service, because it is not really a service, Africa, in as far as the Act is concerned. A service is when you buy, you pay, someone is going to build something for you. That's a service. Goods, again, it's that loaf of bread, milk, and all that. But transacting, in as far as now giving them cash, using your card, it is not a service that a consumer can pay for. Do reach out to the NCC so that we can educate but also deal with those suppliers who repeatedly ignore the Consumer Protection Act.
Because it will then be the cost of sale, right? It will be the cost of that Spaza Shop concluding a sale, and it's a cost that they're supposed to absorb, whatever they'll be charged by the supplier of that speed point.
They're supposed to absorb that cost. It's like the cost of bringing goods from a wholesale to the store. They absorb that cost. We cannot tell them how to run the business, but what we are telling them is to say you cannot, ask consumers or force consumers to pay you extra R2 or R10 merely by using your speed point.
I also know that some people living in the townships, for example, it's a Monday morning, they have not gone to an ATM because ATMs perhaps are not operational on a Sunday because the shopping malls do not open or they close early, whatever the case may be. And then they might want to go draw cash, in inverted commas, from the Spaza Shop owner. This happens, I'm told. In those instances, they would also levy a fee for using that spin point. I suppose the same rule applies, right?
Look, that might be a different one. We'll now have to look at the banking ombuds itself, because now that is someone withdrawing cash. The question again is is the supplier or this Spaza shop allowed to, to give cash to consumers and all that? They would say maybe we're making it easier, but it's a different conversation. But in as far as goods and services are concerned, based on the Consumer Protection Act, they cannot levy that extra fee. Not at all.
Here's a point being raised by a listener who says the shelves of the Spaza shop owners are quite often not labeled with any pricing, so they charge by word of mouth. What happens in that instance? Because the Consumer Protection Act says to me, if I'm going to be charged 24 Rand for that product, then 24 Rand is what I'm supposed to pay, but that 24 Rand would need to be displayed. What happens if it's not displayed?
It is contravention of Section 26 of the Consumer Protection Act, Africa. So that's what makes it really even difficult for consumers to say, we now want to file complaints. This is what the supplier is doing. They do reach out to us. We then go out to that particular supplier. What we have been doing over the past year or so, we have issued non-compliance in as far as those suppliers are concerned, big or small, because we can even walk to a bigger retail and the prices are not displayed. You don't know as a consumer what is it that you are going to pay. So even Spaza shops are doing that. We are very clear. And the price or a receipt, Africa, it doesn't really have to be that fancy receipt. Anything that confirms that a consumer bought from this particular store on this date and this is what they have paid, it is good enough. It is proof enough. But make sure that those prices are displayed. Again, it doesn't have to be a fancy display. Back in the days, you would buy a carton of milk and the price is written on the box itself. This is what the law requires, either on the product or adjacent to the product. The same goes for ingredients. So this is very important to make it easier for consumers to know where they bought, and if something goes wrong with the product or the transaction itself, then it will be easier for the regulator to take to follow the process. So do issue prices, display prices, issue receipts, and charge consumers what you have displayed. Yeah. Nothing extra.
Peter, you imagine this is resonating with a number of the listeners this morning. All of them almost in chorus saying, what do we do? Who do we report to? Do you mind running through how they either get in touch with you or who they can report to? Should they be charged additional fees? Or, as you quite rightly highlighted in response to your last comment, should there be a price that is not displayed for a product or service?
We are available on 012 065 1940. It's too early. My mail is a bit foggy. So do reach out in our contact center. But you can always reach us on our socials at the NCC_RSA, that's X. Facebook, we are the National Consumer Commission. But we've made it easy again. Go to our website, click e-services and ORS to create a profile if you want to file a complaint or just want to be ready for the opt-out registry. But do reach out so that we know where these Spaza shops are. We want to go to them and educate them, and then we'll enforce the law once we have educated them. But we do issue complaint notices, or we'll be able to take them even to the tribunal, just to change this practice.
It needs to change. Petro, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Petro Ndaba, the spokesperson for the National Consumer Commission. Let's be very clear. Should a Spaza shop charge you fees for use of a speed point, or if you're going to be using your card to purchase for a product or a service, that, according to the Consumer Protection Act, is illegal, because you're only expected to pay for the price that is displayed on the shelf for that product or service.